welcome to day 5 of Virtual Sports Camp. I hope you're having a great time. I know this is so different than what we normally do at Antioch and Village, but you know what? We're having fun. Coaches are having a blast, the clinicians are having a blast, and hopefully you are having a good time at home as well. Today at 10 o'clock, we're going to meet with Coach Nick, and he's going to give us his tennis tips. Coach Nick is always funny, and so stay tuned to see what he has in store for us. Hey, what are you doing now?
Oh, I'm stretching. That's hot tip essential 7, number 5. Do you know that whenever you stretch, you're actually loosening up your joints, you're loosening up your muscles, and that helps you play your sport better. That way you don't have as many injuries. It's kind of like a rubber band stretching, nice and smooth and easy. Flexibility, that's what we're looking for here. It makes you limber, those muscles get warm, and then they move much easier, like a well-oiled bicycle chain. So your elbows, shoulders, hips, knees, everything goes smooth. You know, whether you're bowling or whether you're swimming, it doesn't matter. You're gonna go with these, and guess what? Your coach is gonna love you because you're having fewer injuries. And sadly, I won't get to see you as much because you won't be coming to the health center, but you know what? That's okay, because guess what? I get to watch and wave at you more from the porch. Oh, that was so good. It's so hot today. Hey, you're here. Nice to have you videotaping, and this is just in time for Essential 7 tip number 6. I've just had a nice drink at the water fountain, so that reminds me of something. Might be good for you to remember. When you're drinking at a public water fountain, you might want to make sure that you're not ever putting your lips right on the same spigot or faucet where everyone else can be drinking. Just drink from the water as it comes up in the little arch, and that will be healthy and better for you. So let's talk about hand washing. That's tip number 6. Nowadays, we need to be extra special, careful about our hand washing. So let's just pretend this is our faucet in our sink here. You don't have to rub your hands raw when you're washing your hands, but after you eat, before you eat, after going to the bathroom, going to a restaurant, going to a store, picking your nose, you know, things like that. And yeah, I hope you really don't pick your nose. Did I just say that to you? Anyway, you want to be washing your hands a lot. So let's talk about hand washing. 15, 10, 20 seconds, something like singing happy birthday. A couple rounds. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear camp athlete. Happy birthday to you. And so there you go. You don't have to rub your hands raw. They're nice and clean. If you have soap, of course, be using your soap. But it's about just rubbing the hands under water that makes them nice and clean. That gets the germs off, and where do they go? Right down the faucet. Hand washing.
Hi! So today we're going to be doing some warm-ups to get you guys going for your activities. So we're each going to take turns. I'm Juliana. I'm Sophia. I'm 𝗍𝗶𝗿. I'm Julia. I'm Gabby. And yeah, so we're going to get started. Alright? Okay. So the first activity we're going to do today are called Frankensteins. So what you're going to do is put your arms out and you're going to kick each leg to the opposite hand. So like this. And we're going to do that for 30 seconds. Our next warm-up. Alright guys, for this one, we're going to reach down to our right foot, our left foot, and stay there for 10 seconds. 𝗍𝗶𝗿's going to do our next exercise.
So we're going to do forward arm circles for 10 seconds, and then we're going to do them backwards for another 10. exercise. So now we're going to do arm over. So we take our hands like this, and then cross one hand over, and then turn your leg and then up and down. Our next exercise. Alright, so for the next exercise, we're going to do high knees, and you're going to keep your hands up here and hit your hands every single time you do it. We're going to do about 20 of these. Ready, go.
Good morning. My name is 𝗧𝗧𝗍𝗂. I'm a tennis coach and clinician for Sports Camp 2020. Welcome to session 1 of tennis. In today's session, we're going to talk a little bit about game of tennis, rules, scoring, and court layout. First of all, let's start with a joke. Sorry about that. What do you call a woman standing in the middle of a tennis court? Anybody? Anybody? Annette. Sorry about that. So first of all, I want to talk about the game of tennis. The history of it goes back to the 12th century in France, and it was developed more as handball than anything else. As a matter of fact, it was originally called palm ball. And from there, it went on to be played. It was very popular through the next couple of centuries until about 18th century. Then a person in England picked it up and developed our modern game of tennis. And in our modern game of tennis, we have a layout that we have right here behind us. We have a baseline at the back, a service line at the front, a center service line, and a net area. We have a doubles court, singles alley, and more specifically, it's shown like as such. So as you see, we have the complete tennis layout with the doubles, singles, center service line, and we're ready to go. Baseline, center line, all play part of this game, and the serving starts the game. So the serving is again started with the ball in motion. When you're serving the ball, you are serving from one court into the opposite court. Basically, we're serving from, we'll start the game from the deuce court, serving from that part over into this square over here, into the area between the baseline and the service line. We won't talk about service because we're going to address that in another lesson, but basically the service is a stroke where the ball is hit directly out of the air. Today we'll be talking about ground strokes, but in order to demonstrate, we're going to hit the ball directly out of the air. That is the service. So let's let the games begin. We have the lets, we have the lines. Lines are in. Let me talk about scoring. The scoring is done 15, 30, 40 game. It starts at 0, which is they call love. Why do they call it love? Because when they originally start scoring the game of tennis, they would put on a scoreboard big goose egg for love, 0. The name in France for egg is l'œuf, love, get it? Okay. Question was, why do they call it 15, 30, 40 in game instead of 1, 2, 3, 4? Here again, that goes back to the basic tradition of tennis. 15, 30, 40 that's the way they kept score back then. It was used in a clock. They used the face of a clock when they started playing, a clock on each side. 0, 15, 30, 40, all right, 40, 45 game. And that's how it happens. So let me talk a little bit about the tennis equipment. The equipment is the racket. Well, Nothing too basic about the racket. There it is, strings, frame, and grip. Grip. Okay, the grip, there's several ways that you could hold the racket, but the grip is done like, there's the racket. Now you're going to reach over and pick it up. There's the grip. It is a frying pan grip, just like you would hold a frying pan. The other grip we have is what I call the motorcycle grip. This is what we use for the backhand. And that's if you take your racket like so and hold the racket in your hand horizontally. Boom, boom, boom. That's the motorcycle grip. The next thing we'll do is demonstrate the stance. The stance is done parallel to the sidelines and almost perpendicular to the back. So the stance is done. Basic stance in all athletics is the same. Your feet are shoulder width apart and a little spring in your step, and you're ready to go. So the first thing we want to do in the stance is balance. We have to make sure we have our balance. The forehand, you have the basic forehand grip. In the forehand, you want to hit the ball so you're hitting it up through the ball. Now let me show you that from your vantage point, downstream. Here's our stance. In our stance, we're going to move to our forehand stance. Right there. Now you try it. All right, that's good. From there, we're going to move to our forehand stance. With our forehand stance, remember we're going to use the motorcycle grip. Boom, boom. Now with the forehand stance, completely opposite. Forehand is made, you're going to hit the ball from that general direction. You're going to use the same sweeping motion, hit the ball up. You're going to be dropping your shoulder during the hit. To demonstrate the forehand, or the backhand, just like that. The other point I want to make, it's not a ground stroke, but it's a very important stroke in tennis, and that is the volley. When the game starts, remember a little diagram I showed you, serve from this point to that point, and your opponent returns the ball after it bounces, there's a possibility that it's going to be somewhat elevated, up high. This gives you an opportunity to rapidly approach the net and do what they call a volley, or hit the ball directly out of the air. So when the serve comes in, it bounces. By that time, you're advanced beyond the service line, and it's up there, punch. It's not a stroke, it is just a punch. Try it again, advance to the net, punch. Okay. So that's the basic forehand, service somewhat, backhand, volley. Now the only other thing I want you to practice are the contact drills. Contact drills means tennis, like everything else, you have to watch the ball at all times. So one of the contact drills I always like to use is just bounce that ball. Bounce the ball right in the center of the net. Do that about 15 or 20 times. Do the same thing with the backhand. And then complete that with some movement. Followed by so there you have it. There is your forehand, backhand, a little bit of history on the tennis game, on the tennis points, and basic stance. Now we're going to go to my house and we're going to do virtual tennis, where you're going to also participate and dictate the way we're going to do it. Hello, and welcome back to Tennis Camp 2020. I'm 𝗍𝗵𝗁𝘁𝘂 again. I remember the last session we had was a demonstration session. And that's where we learned how to hit our forehand and hit our backhand, but we were only able to see it. Now we're into our virtual tennis activity, which now is going to give us the opportunity to actually play tennis, or do tennis drills. And the way we're going to do this is, well, first of all, we need a tennis court. Don't have one. We need a tennis racket. Don't have one. We need a tennis ball. Don't have one. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it in our own house. First of all, we need a wall, maybe about 4 feet or 6 feet wide. And we need to move this sofa out of the way. So I'll be right back. With a piece of painter tape, we have a net in here 3 feet above the floor level. And one more thing we're going to add is a target. This target here is going to be used for instructions a little bit later on. So we now have a net, we now have a court, we need a ball. I found that you could take 4 pieces of 8.5 by 11 paper and crumble them up into a ball. 1, 2, 3, 4. We crumble that up into a nice round ball. And in order to keep it intact the whole time we're going to play, we now take a rubber band that you have in a drawer over there with all the bread wrappers and wrap it around the tennis ball. And there's your tennis ball. So now let's go and get some tennis balls. Here's my can of tennis balls. And we need a racket. Okay. How many of you have your own rackets? Show of hands. How many of you do not have rackets? Show of hands. How many of you cannot answer either question? All right, you 4 in the back, put your hands down. Okay, for those who do not have rackets, we got you covered. So in rackets, I'm going to go get one out of the racket place. There's your racket. And I just want to say this, that back in 1967, there was a young left-handed tennis player, his name was Jimmy Connors. He played with a Wilson T2000 stainless steel tennis racket, and he beat Rod Laver for the championship. And that really set the tone for tennis racket construction forever. But here's your stainless steel tennis racket. It looks just like and is a frying pan. So the first thing we do, remember the last session? Grip. All right, how are we going to handle this frying pan? Well, just like we did before, you pick up the frying pan, and that's how you hold the tennis racket. Okay? We call this grip the tennis racket grip because the last one we called it the frying pan grip, right? Okay. Moving along. We now have the grip. This is the basic forehand grip. So on the basic forehand grip, we're ready to play with the tennis ball with our stance. Stance. Don't forget, we need a ready position, a stance. How do you get into your stance? Well, the stance is the same position that we have for all athletics. And that position is feet shoulder distance apart, little bit of spring, knees just a little bit forward. And that is the basic position for any sport you play. Baseball, skiing, bowling, well maybe not bowling. Movement, in the movement we have to be light on our feet, a little bit of spring in your step. So the first thing we want to do is forehand. Where's the ball? Okay, we got our ball. So now we're going to do the forehand. Remember the grip? Steady. When we hit the forehand, I want you to see you hit the ball from the bottom, bring your racket up, and put a little bit of a loop on it. If you hit it flat, you're going to go into the net. Forehand, up, beautiful. Okay, now showing that same position from the back. Again, forehand. It's going to come from the bottom to go up. And use that target as your guide. That's your forehand. Not bad, not bad. Okay, so progressing then now to the backhand. The backhand is the same thing. You're doing perfect. You're hitting the ball up in the air and you have good elevation on it. Remember the grip for the backhand. Motorcycle grip. Boom, boom. Okay? Motorcycle grip, here we go. We're now going to hit the backhand. We're going to do it the same way. You're going to bring it down from bottom up, and you're going to then drop that shoulder a little bit. Your stance is a little bit more open. What's he mean by that? Okay, open means you're pointing this way. That's an open stance. This is a square stance, okay? So it's a little bit different stance than you have for a forehand. Let's try one. Perfect. We're going to try another one. Okay. Now to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to bring out my training assistant. Here's my training assistant that looks like a lamp. It looks like a lamp with a tennis ball on it and a string. You could hit this thing all day. You could hit it up. That's the way you want to hit it, all right? Forehand. That's the way you want to hit it. Backhand. Training assistant goes on the other side, like so. Backhand. Backhand. Perfect. From the other angle. Backhand. All the time you're aiming for that target. That target is roughly the position of your opponent on the downside. So now you have the forehand and the backhand. The other strokes that we want to practice are, remember we started with the 4 basic strokes in session number 1. Forehand, backhand, service, and volley. With your service, you're going to do exactly the same thing. You're going to take your 𝗩𝗺𝗃 T2000 tennis racket and you're now going to elevate the ball. You're going to throw the ball up in the air and you want to hit that ball out of the air to actually serve into this area here. So I'm going to step back here a little bit, throw the ball up, aim right for that target there. So what you have to do is keep that ball going, keep practicing. And the next thing we're going to do is the volley. The volley is one of these moves that we have that we actually, it's an offensive movement. Volley is not to be confused with rally. Volley is actually hitting the ball out of the air. A rally is when you're hitting the ball back and forth with other players. You want to say, hey, let's go volley? No, here's a volley. When the first person serves, remember from the session number 1, the service, the game starts with a service. He serves the ball over. You hit the ball back with your ground stroke forehand. He hits the ball back to you. By that time, you have already advanced to the net. And instead of waiting back on the service line area, you're over in the center service area. And you hit the ball out of the air. Just a light punch out of the air. You don't have to be very forceful because what you want to do is hit it in that direction or that direction. Catch your opponent off guard. Punch. Okay. Now the next thing we want to do is, I call this contact drills. Now the contact drills is very important. Because remember, you could play tennis on a court all the time and have that court available to you. But the game of tennis is like everything else. You have to keep your eye on the ball. You have to watch that ball from the time it leaves the opponent's net all the way up to the time it hits your strings. Right there. You have to watch that ball. Now, what do we have to do to practice that? These contact drills. And here's your frying pan, and here's your ball. I want you to bounce that up and down a couple times, and that'll give you an idea. Okay, I'm going to move it this way and move it that way. So again, this is not the best ball in the world because it's not even on the backhand. These are your contact drills. So we have the forehand, we have a backhand, and we have a volley. On your volley for the contact drills, you just have to pay attention to the ball, and away you go. Remember that the service and the volley are both overhand shots. You have to have your body into it and push down on it. The other idea about the contact drills is, as I told you before, you have to have some movement. So in the contact drill, what I want you to do, hit the ball up and move over. You have the movement on your feet because everything you do in tennis, you're moving. You're moving. So we had the session number 1, which gave you the rules, scoring, basic ground strokes, forehand, backhand, volley, and service. The contact drills will help you improve your efficiency and skill. The skills take you to the next level of competition, and the next level of competition and win. So you want to improve your skills to win, and if you cannot win, then be brave in the attempt. Thank you.